So good afternoon to everybody joining us today. Welcome to the MTA session around the National Plan for Music Education. Really today we're looking at what is it that schools need to know following the publication of this document from the DfE. And we're going to have some slightly different content perhaps maybe compared to some other sessions, because we've also got information, some depth behind the case studies that feature in the plan. So we'll give a couple of minutes just for everyone to drift in, and then we'll get going straight away. But really great to have you all with us today. If you want to contribute, you're really welcome to. There is the chat function as normal in Zoom, and there's also Q&A if you want to post any questions to anyone, and we'll try and keep time right at the end for any questions.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'll just add hello to Catherine and welcome. I hope you're all doing well, enjoying the summer term. I think some hot weather's coming. So this session on a Monday, over the last few months, Liz Dunbar, who's also here and is waving, we've been running a session called Music Teacher Mondays, which is basically a monthly Zoom, just gathering music teachers just to chat and talk about music. We've had some guest speakers, but we felt that this was such a fantastic topic. So this is all focusing on that. But I just wanted to say that please do watch this space for September, where we're looking to restart. We won't do one in August because I think we all need a break. But Music Teacher Mondays will be starting back in September, and it's open to everybody, whether you're an MTA member, new music teacher, whether you've been teaching for years or you're training, whoever you are, you can join us. And I'll make sure you've got some information about that, but welcome. And I hope you get lots out of this wonderful session. Right. Are we, I think everyone's probably in now. And obviously, Catherine just said, please do, put questions in the chat, and at the end there'll be a chance for that. And the other thing just to point out is that Liz and I, part of our role with the Music Teachers Association, which is a wonderful organisation, is to support music teachers. So we are music teacher support leads, or some kind of title like that, but we like to support music teachers. So if you've got any questions at all, then please do get in touch with us. And we always aim to try and help, however big or small your question. It's really important that we are there to support you, and that's kind of MTA's real driver at the moment, is to make sure that all music teachers in every sector, every stage feel supported. So I'll make sure you've got my details in the chat.
It's a lovely way of just connecting with people. I found in the last 12 months, honestly, the number of people I know now across the country and who have different ways of working, I've learned absolutely loads. And there's nothing quite like it, just being able to talk to people and to share ideas, share problems, share successes. It's rather marvellous.
Right, Catherine, are you going to kick this thing off for us?
Just to introduce everybody who's a panelist on the session today. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Catherine Barker. I'm President-elect of the Music Teachers Association. My day job is that I am lead for music and performing arts in United Learning, which is a multi-academy trust, schools group with schools across the country. So wonderful job. I love my job. So that's it. James M., can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm James Manwaring. I'm Director of Music for Windsor Learning Partnership, which is a fairly small multi-academy trust in the wonderful town of Windsor. And I too love my job. And most recently, I've been involved in the Platinum Jubilee, where I had students performing to tens of thousands of people on the Long Walk, which was quite a remarkable weekend. And then I also work with MTA as teacher support lead. And I just love, as Liz said, connecting with people, talking with music teachers, and just feeling like I'm getting the support and also supporting back. And I will say that I'm going to have to leave this Zoom in a minute, but I didn't want to miss out. But I've got a parents meeting to go to in about 5 minutes. So but I wanted to be here so that, I can wave and say hello. But yeah, Liz, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Liz Dunbar. I work at Huntington School, which is a big comprehensive on the north side of York. and I'm Pathfinder lead for York Schools as well. So for music, I stay in touch with and look after and talk to all the heads of music across the city, and then hopefully get them to connect with their primary schools, etc., etc. And I'm doing outreach work for Huntington now. I just stepped down after 30 years of running music departments, so I'm part-time now, and happy little chicken because I'm getting to do all sorts of other adventurous things like this. So everything's good.
And Connell.
Hello everybody, yeah, my name's Connell Duffy. I'm faculty leader for performing arts specialism in music. I've been a music teacher for a long time, but just finishing my 4th year at Esser Academy in Bolton, which is a very small, well, it's a multi-academy trust. We've got a secondary and a primary on site, and it's it's a very multicultural school, and we've been featured in the as one of the case studies the National Music Plan. So it's my first experience with Music Teachers Association. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you with us. And James Tibbles, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi there. So I'm James, Director of Music at Malcolm Arnold School in Northamptonshire, and we are one of the other case study schools. It's a large school, welcomed 300 year sevens to join us this morning and for today and tomorrow. So yeah, again, very multicultural school, very high EAL numbers, and lots of music going on. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to hearing more about your school. Before we do that, I thought it'd be good to start off by me sort of talking a little bit through the actual plan and kind of where it came from and how that experience has been. So I was really honoured to be asked to be on the expert panel for this refreshed national plan for music education. And it's really, I mean, look, you don't get opportunities like this very often that come up in your career to have an opportunity to kind of reflect with lots of other colleagues who are really coming at it, not just with their own sector experience, but with everyone really wanting to do the best they could for children and young people in their music making so that we could help to build something that's even better for this country. And there was really a strong sense of everyone around the table wanting to find consensus on things, because we knew that there would be some things we really wanted to do, but maybe weren't quite possible. But there was definitely a lot of listening that came from the Department for Education, the chair of the panel, and listening to all the wider contributions, because there was a survey done just before COVID, helpfully. But also it wasn't just that was looked at. It was, there's been youth music surveys, ISM reports, as well as the original plan itself, and looking how it had been implemented over the past 11 years. So it very broadly looked at everything that was going on, all the evidence, and then looking at what was going on within our own bit in the sector, not just those of us on the panel who were teachers and working with schools. There were the national youth organisations. So, for example, the CEO of the NYO was on the panel. There were people from Music Mark, from the Arts Council, also from hubs as well, more broadly, and from the music sector. So it's a really large group of people. You can have a look in the plan, you see all the people who are involved. And I sort of came at it myself from my work in the trust with independent schools and with state schools, but also I'm chair of governors of a large secondary school, so I sort of have that own experience. My work with MTA, but also as a parent, like thinking, what is it that we would want and aspire for all young people? So when we think about the plan, it's also worth reminding ourselves about what is the current context for schools. We know that music education is a pretty fragmented, slightly messy and confusing system. Not only have we got lots of different types of schools in England, but we also have lots of different types of hubs and music services in England, not all quite the same, and serving their different local areas in a different way. Everyone is rebuilding after COVID. My own reflections that I think that schools were finding it tough are still finding it really quite tough, and schools where the music departments were sort of slight green shoots, it's been harder to water those green shoots and really get them going. And all schools, even if you're a really fabulous school with loads of things going on, everyone's had to work really hard to restart and reimagine what their music making is going to be like. We were just reflecting before the webinar started. It's the first full year we've had, and we're all getting to the end of July and thinking, goodness me, we're exhausted. It's the first full year we've had. Alongside that, it's no secret that school budgets are tight. We are working within a more constrained context, and some of the conditions, particularly in the state sector, but also this is seen in independent schools, that children, young people are really feeling it. Attendance is tough at the moment. It's the worst it's ever been nationally, and we know that fixed term exclusions in a lot of areas are also really concerning. So all of this at a time, when it's understandable where schools think, oh, another piece of policy, another bit of recommendations coming through. It's tough. But there is an awful lot of potential. We know that there's a huge amount of passion and enthusiasm for music education from music educators. People I come across are sort of filled with this sense of, well, it isn't us who's going to deliver this, who will? We have this structure behind us. We have this new plan, revised plan, refreshed plan. We have to remember we're the only subject with a strategic plan. The only subject, not the core. The core subjects don't have a strategic plan. They don't have the complexity of the kind of ecosystem behind them, maybe with the maths hubs, the English hubs and the language hubs, but it's very different to music education. Music education wraps around a whole child, and that's why we have this plan. But also, whether you like it or not, we do have a modern music curriculum. We've got new, non-statutory guidance which is in place, and there is this support and advocacy. One thing you might not realise on the national plan as well is that it was the DFE and DCMS, so education and culture working together, which apparently is very unusual for that to happen in government, with civil servants working together in that way. So all of that feels really positive. And alongside that, we know that there are lots of green shoots. All of you on this call will be working really hard at the moment to kind of restart and reinvigorate departments this year. And it is clear that everybody has known what they have been missing. You just need to go to look at, what the reception to Glastonbury last weekend and to all the concerts happening with at Hyde Park this week, etc., etc. People have missed arts and culture, and they are welcoming it back with open arms. So there's a real, there's so much scope and potential. And within all of this context, what did a plan need to achieve? And for me, I think I went into it with a music teacher hat on, thinking, well, we need to have a lot more security and improvement towards funding for music in this country. We also needed to recognise sort of the structural issues around music. So, for example, timetabling for music in schools and the qualifications framework for schools. What is this impact of carousels? What is the impact of reduced time? A 2-year Key Stage 3 essentially leads to a reduction in staffing in any school, and that inevitably has a wider impact. So that was a real big issue. And also we needed clarity on the roles of everyone in the sector. Like, what is the hub supposed to do? Like, what sits with schools? What sits, with the sector? What sits with music industry? How can we all work together in partnership? So to what extent has all of this been addressed? Well, I think one of the really big, the key takeaways from the plan is that schools are right at the centre of it, and they're at the heart. Whilst the plan is really long, it's like over 80 pages, it's a long bit of reading for everybody, and there is a one-page summary from the MTA, which hopefully is helpful for you all. We do have clarity. I think if I was going at it and thinking about my department, I'd be thinking about those 7 key features. So there are the 7 key features of high quality school music provision, which are it's not mandated, but it's saying, like, if you want a benchmark of what like a thriving department looks like, this is the kind of stuff you should be looking for. So timetable curriculum music every week, Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 3, access to lessons. So this is like one-to-one or small group peripatetic lessons, and voice in that as well. School choir or vocal ensembles, band groups, space. Don't offices make great practice rooms? But we need that space for rehearsal and practice. termly school performance, so because it's not just about process, but it's also about product, having those moments where you can celebrate the achievements of young people and have something to work towards, and also there's an opportunity to see live performance, because it's so inspiring and really can bring the community and the wider world of music into the school. So that's all there, and I think it's great that we've got that clarity. It's a very simple statement, and I think it's a good tool to be able to reflect and say, well, if we don't have some of this, why not? Even better, let's make it possible. Of course, some schools are going to find that quite hard, especially I think primary schools, smaller schools, and the sector is going to need to work really hard to listen and offer support where possible. And I think that is built into the plan. There are all these plans for CPD and lead schools, partnerships, that kind of thing. And I think it is a bit of a shame that there's no mention of Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 in that key features list. Like, I think a great school should have a Key Stage 5 and a Key Stage 4 and a Key Stage 5 offer. But we would hope that if Key Stage 3 is working well, then it would lead naturally in. So, and that's something yet to be developed. There's also expectations around subject leadership. Schools to have someone who is responsible for music provision and leadership for it, a designated music lead, at school or academy trust level. I suppose it depends on the size of your trust. And this recognises the need for direction and strategic leadership. It's unlike its other subjects. I keep on going back to this, but a maths teacher wouldn't need to communicate with parents and carers in the same kind of way, and with external agencies and with community organisations. You need to have someone who draws all that together. There's all these expectations around a music development plan that captures the curricular, co-curricular offer, pulls that together. So we thought really carefully about that it shouldn't be something extra. We're all familiar with the language of the development plan. So let's make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel and writing something new for the hub or for the DFE, but it's essentially to reflect on your strengths as well as areas for development. But it doesn't mean that development plan is just about looking at how you make Key Stage 4 results better. I certainly was guilty of that in the past. Let's think about it's sort of more a holistic umbrella view of a whole, what it makes to make a really great department. Interesting to see as well these new lead school roles, where there are schools who might work in partnership with their hub on CPD and peer-to-peer support. I know some schools will be really excited about this, partly because of the status it provides, but the reason for doing it is adding capacity to your hub, so that you can have impact beyond your setting. And this is really to be able to exemplify really great practice. Sometimes you need to see it in action in a school, and so we're hoping that there'll be more of that kind of work as a result. There's already a model for this in behaviour and maths and languages in England, and I know there's going to be more information coming out about that. So some really interesting things have come through. Thinking about my original question, has the plan delivered on the issues of funding and structures and brought clarity? Well, I think it has. There's another 25 million for instruments and adaptive instruments. Isn't that exciting? And the music progression fund, which will go to those 50 levelling up areas. We weren't expecting that, to be completely honest. We didn't think that would be more money. So we can, it's interesting and exciting to think what scope there is for impact there. Has it addressed the structural issues? Well, I think the stating the need for weekly provision, yes. And there are some quite clear statements in the plan about expectations on progression routes for young people. So it hasn't addressed the EBAC issue fully. However, the language I think is quite strong and helpful to us as teachers. And I think the best thing in there is everything about partnership, but also explaining what sits where. And if you're a teacher coming into the profession from as an ECT, or you're coming from abroad, or if it's your first time thinking about the whole music ecology, you can read that document and think, kind of get it now, who does what. And I think that's a good thing. So there's clarity. It does mean schools are going to need to really reflect with quite a level of honesty and ambition about what they do. And MTA, we're keen to support that. And I'll talk at the end a little bit about some of the tools that we've produced. But I think that covers it for me, everything I want to talk about, what's in the plan and the headlines. And I'll hand over to James and Liz to talk about, to listen to the case studies.
Cool, hello. I think you're absolutely right, everything you're saying. I think you know, this thing about the benchmark of 7 points. You know, there's nothing there that shouldn't be there, but it's making it happen for a lot of schools. That will be the interesting thing. So I'd like to welcome Connell, and we're going to have a wee chat about your school and the fact that yours was one of the case study schools in this report. So Connell, tell us a little bit about your school. What's it like?
Oh, right. Yeah. So when I started there, it was music is part of the arts department. So we've got photography, graphics, drama, and music. And a lot of the music was made on computers, mainly using GarageBand and headphones. There wasn't a lot of live music, and the way I've always enjoyed teaching music is through playing music. So and when I got the job there, the head was really keen for us to make music. So but there wasn't the instruments that we needed. So it was about raiding the storeroom for what was historically there and fixing things and finding drum kits and things like that to start with.
Yeah, how did you get started in that process? What was the first step that you took in starting to bring live music back into your school? What did you do first?
The first thing, there was no piano, no stage piano, but there was an old clavinova that I was told didn't work anymore, and I got it out, got it to work. There was no sustain pedal, so I had to fix that. And just me play. I'm a pianist by trade, if you like.
Yeah.
And just playing music to the students and singing with them.
Yeah.
I love singing. I find it a challenge sometimes to teach whole class singing, but I really think that it's a great foundation to start, especially in year 7. I did say that in the case study. We had Ofsted in quite recently, and that was the first question. What do you teach to the year 7s on the first lesson, and why?
Yeah.
And I said, well, you don't often know what you're getting sometimes with year 6s from different schools, and you get some experienced musicians as some complete novices. And the thing that everyone can do and everyone should do for me is sing. So straight away, I got the students to tell me what sort of music they liked, and that was an eye opener as well. It's a very multicultural school, and I came armed with the latest chart music. I think it was some Calvin Harris and some Dua Lipa, and the students with blank faced. We don't listen to chart music. That was a big eye opener for me, and it was. I said, well, what do you like? You're trying to make a good impression with especially with the older students, and I was basically taking requests to start with. It was some current, and they've opened my eyes a lot to Bollywood style music and Punjabi music, and what I found was that no matter what music you're learning, no matter from what era, the musical elements are exactly the same, just used in different ways. So you can find commonalities, and I found that because the students they could see that I was prepared to learn their music, if you like, and then they were prepared to learn what I had to offer as well. And there was one particular student who, after I played, said, "Oh, could I do it? Could I do what you're doing?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do that." And just to foster an interest in piano to start with.
It's a really important thing, isn't it? Walk in their shoes. And if you're engaging with students in a musical world that they're familiar with, it's a great way of starting the process of expanding, horizons, etc. I imagine, you over this last 5 years, that like everybody out there, that the impact of 18 months, 2 years of no live music making has had. I don't know what your situation is at your school, but tell us what it was like in September of 21 when you were back in your department and you could kind of start again. How far back did you need to go in that process of your, you were saying to the end of your 4th year. So yes. After the 2 years of, disruption that we've had, where were you when you kind of came back? In September 21.
Yeah, great question. Well, by this stage, before lockdown had happened, we'd got a new music room, and the head had seen the passion for music grow. So we'd had a lot more funding. So we have a big open plan music room now and it's glass all the way around. So it's like they used to call it the goldfish bowl, but we had a plethora of instruments. Now we've got a stage inside the classroom with a drum kit and guitar amps. keyboards set in sort of an orchestral setting, and ukuleles everywhere. We've got a brass section. We've got a steel pan setting. It's a huge room. It's a brilliant music room. So there was a culture of making music just before lockdown. But what I found was because the area is in a significant area of deprivation in Bolton, is that the students couldn't access musical instruments from home, and that was pretty obvious early on. So we started using our budget to buy instruments through the pupil premium fund. So we started with the wellbeing pastoral team. We started delivering instruments to students who had showed a great interest. And one study, there's a young student, a young boy called Daniel, and he was having some real problems in lockdown. There was some self-harm issues. We took a keyboard to his house, and he could engage with the online learning. And he just recently performed for the MERS concert in Bolton as part of the music hub. And he came into school and he was absolutely buzzing. He said, it's changed my life. And he said, no, I've performed on a few stages. He said, I think I can do anything now, which was a great thing. So for some, even though lockdown was devastating for a lot of different reasons, for some students who had access to an instrument who didn't have that before, they actually came back stronger musically, but a very small number. The vast majority, what I've found, particularly with year 8, current year 8s and year 9s, is that they're way behind.
Yeah,
they've just not had the practice time.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think I'm experiencing exactly the same with year 8. And it's year 8 actually that when you look across our 7 to 13 cohorts, it's year 8 who are the least engaged with the additional things that we do beyond the curriculum, beyond the taught time. And so that's the year group we said, right, come on, we're going to go to Manchester and go and see the Lion King. We're going to take everybody, because we've got to get everybody out and seeing live music, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah.
With your 4 years, what have been the blockers and how have you unblocked them? Where have you got flat nose and you said, right, I'm not having that, I'm going to walk around this, or I'm going to find a solution?
Oh yeah, I think culturally there was quite a bit of resistance from some students, and depending on your interpretation of certain religions, I've had some students say, I can't study music, it's haram. So I've had to take advice from local imams and other teachers, or from the school, and then have a chat with the students. And sometimes they just don't want to do the work, and they use it as a bit of an excuse sometimes. But we've had just conversation. I think engaging with the style of music that some students like as well, that's been a real breakdown of barriers.
How about the perception of the teachers in your school of the music department and their kind of perception of its value? What journey have you had to make with them?
Well, in the art department, when we started making a lot of noise, obviously the art rooms like it pretty quiet, really. So that was the reason we had to get a new room, as well as interest for more music. But I think the biggest backing that I've had is from the head teacher and the leadership team. He did something called SLT, which was an afternoon cups of tea with the students, and he quickly found out that there was a passion for music that he hadn't heard about. And he actually said, people are going on about music. And then another senior leader kept coming up to the department saying, why have you got all these kids here? At break time, every break time and lunchtime, it's full of students wanted to meet me. And he said, what are they doing here? I said, they're practicing, they're enjoying themselves. And suddenly, I think because the senior leadership started to celebrate it, and the head, he comes into lessons, the new music room's really close to the head's office. He walks past, he sees we're having a big steel pan performance, or students on stage that necessarily wouldn't shine in other departments, and he sees it and he celebrates it. And we recently had the inaugural ESSA Young Musician of the Year, which was a really good showcase. We had a big competition, and the head teacher was the senior judge. He was the Simon Cowell of which I thought was fantastic. And he was so blown away by it. He said, right, next week's CPD, we're going to have this concert for all the staff. I want all the staff to see this. And that was a big endorsement with all the staff, and he was saying, this is the standard, this is our book look, if you like.
And then it's a wonderful story. I think you're saying, like, you need champions, you need someone to be on your side in SLT. And if your head teacher and your leadership team are on your side, then the sky's the limit, frankly, because once you've got that kind of backing, then you can keep on working at it. And I think if everybody, you know, around the country and the people that are on this meeting now had that kind of support, that will be wonderful. And I think sometimes you've got to put these things under people's noses as well and say, you know, here is this thing, here's a complimentary ticket, please come to my rehearsal and bring it to them. And it sounds like you've done that absolutely brilliantly. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, you know, when we kind of think about our music development plans, what's next for you?
Oh, yeah. We're going back to computers a little bit more. Now the students can play. I feel that composition is the area we need more work in. And in lockdown, we've always had Sibelius, and I've always used that. And in lockdown, of course, the students didn't have it. You know, my GCSE students. And it was one of my students found some free software called MuseScore that I'm sure all the teachers online have heard about, and suddenly through that medium they're producing some brilliant pieces. So we're having all that installed in all the computers so that the students, and I'm having some really good musicians now start to get a real interest in composition. So that's the next stage for our more senior music students. But going back to more lower school, year 8 in particular, we've had difficulties. We've just completely rewritten the curriculum. We've added a rap project, looking at, I think it was the Super Bowl this year. They had a collection of rap songs that they're not current songs, it's old stuff, you know, Jay-Z, and I'm not that down with that kind of stuff, but the students seem to really like it. We've got a beatbox student in year 10 who's unbelievable. I haven't seen anybody beatbox like he does. He can do harmony at the same time as rhythm. And so he's running a club now through his D of E. Brilliant. So I've had him in all the year 8 lessons doing a demo, and the students are just blown up. We've had some beatbox battles with the student versus our drum tutor, which the students loved, and he trying to engage the students as much as possible, really, in year 8. So just finding different ways to do that. More live music opportunities as well. We started a lunchtime live. I read in a curriculum book, I believe in York, you have something similar, like a live lounge type thing. So we go outside, we take the drums outside, we take the samba band outside on Friday lunchtime, and the students perform. I think that came from lockdown, really, just having to do stuff outside. Yeah, and bringing a bit of life to the school and spreading the love, spreading it around the site. Probably the next step is to engage more with the primary school, because they kind of do their own thing a bit. So with the new national plan, how they recommend a lead for the trust, I think that would bring us together a little bit more. So we started to do that. I want more. Now that we can do that, COVID is, well, I don't want to, say anything, but I'd like some of my students now to go to the primary and be leaders as part of their arts award. They could help us out. You can't do it all yourself. I think I've got a really good team around me, so I want to spread it as much as possible. That's true. I think one of the cleverest things you can do as a one-person department, small music department, is get your students being ambassadors and being leaders and running sectionals and coaching and all the rest of it. You can even do it inside the classroom, because like you say, because the spread of student experience prior to coming to secondary school is so vast, you do have 2, 3, 4 people in the room who are, have got skills in certain areas that a lot of other people haven't. So you can even triage the room. But there's nothing quite like, when a student comes up to you and says, "That's all right, I'll run that for you." And you go, "Thanks very much." And there's those students who want to kind of take those leadership roles. And so do that with them. I often think in secondary schools, we've got a lot to learn from primaries, in that in year 6, students get a lot of responsibility. And in secondaries, we're not very good at giving that responsibility to year 7. We see them as babies, but actually they're a year older than year 6. So why shouldn't they have that responsibility? Absolutely, yeah. I've just seen the question as well about, the reason I do the singing is because mainly if I've got a woodwind player, I personally, I don't know how to play it. So I'd love it for one of those students to run a little club and foster an interest. And we've done that we started strings. We didn't have any string tuition until last year. Now we've got 12 string players, which would year 7 and year 8, and a violinist. So when, for example, when we're doing the rap music, the violin students were taking a little group of string players into the practice room, and they were teaching them the music. So I think that's the next step, really, utilising music leaders as much as possible.
And it's interesting you were saying about bringing technology back into your lessons, because I think the great thing, if you're using technology well in your teaching at Key Stage 3, 4, 5, is it's a tool to realize sometimes when you haven't got the fingers to do some things, and play everything in, or sing everything, because you've only got one voice at a time. But if you want to see what 3 backing voices sound like together, then you can bring that to life through technology. If you want to see what it would sound like if you dropped in another 3, 4 parts onto your arrangement, you can do that. And there's nothing quite like kind of like taking it to that stage and then bringing it back into reality with live performance again. So it kind of really helps you see that. I always think it's a little bit like, architectural drawings, and then you get this kind of 3D 360 images of like what the building's going to look like. That's what technology is brilliant for, is saying, oh yeah, that space is too small, that building is too high, let's rethink that, if you see what I mean. And you can do that with composition through technology. I think sometimes students are guilty of that thing of just staring at the screen instead of thinking, oh right, this is a really useful tool. They're kind of staring at kind of like a little flashing cursor by bar 4 and thinking, what next? And so there is a partnership between the live and the realized, through MIDI and through sampling. Shall we bring James in our conversation as well, Catherine?
Yes, it'd be great to hear about more insight on his department as well.
James,
how you doing?
There? Hello.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I think my camera might not be on. I'm not sure.
But we can see your name and we can hear you.
Okay, cool.
So it's all good. Right, tell us about your school, James.
Okay, so I started working at Malcolm Arnold Academy about 5 or 6 years ago, and was in a really fortunate position in the way that I took over the department, insofar as Malcolm Arnold was one of the last schools in the country to be given a specialist college status, which was awarded for music, and of course the school's named after famous composer Malcolm Arnold, who used to live just around the corner from where the school is now. And so there were already some really amazing, well-established kind of traits of ethos in the department. Students kind of expected a variety of things to take part in. There was an understanding that music was an important part of daily school life. I was a bit shocked and taken aback actually when I first started, how students kind of would just absolutely expect, if there was a visitor to the school, right, at a moment's notice, right, that's it, quick, get the staging out, someone's in the school, we're going to go out and perform to them. And that was a brand new thing to me, and to begin with, I just couldn't get my head around it, because all I could think was, oh, I'm scrabbling here in a new job, and there's a concert every half an hour going on seemingly, and how do I get my mind around this? But I've learned to lean into it and embrace it, and it's kind of really opened a lot of doors for the music department, and especially the children, who of course are the center of everything we do. And it's such a powerful thing to see the children kind of take ownership of these situations and know what to do, and talk to the grown-ups that they've never met before, that have come to the school, and kind of, right, this is what we're doing and this is why, and hey, just you wait there, and I'm going to go up on the stage now and handle my business, and then we can talk about it again afterwards. For example, only this morning, like I was saying, we welcomed 300 new Year 7s to the school. On Friday, the Year 7s came for an extra day, and the school jazz ensemble just gave a concert to them at the end of their day, and all the children were kind of encouraged to kind of cheer along and clap for solos and improvisations and things, and anything that they particularly liked, they were kind of encouraged to do. That thing that golf fans do in America, where as soon as the ball's been hitting, everyone just starts shouting and screaming, kind of that whole thing. And it was a really great atmosphere, really like palpable kind of sense of like kind of building and welcoming this musical community within our school on the Friday. And then we capitalized on that. The very next thing they did when they came to school was walk straight back into the theatre. And I'm sure a lot of you guys know our fearless leader, Simon Toyne, kind of ran a singing assembly with them, and again the jazz ensemble accompanied this. So we had 300 year 7 singing, accompanied by musicians who are performing and leading the singing as well in groups, and it's just really kind of central to our kind of identity and a huge part of what we do.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because you know, the story that you have just told will be happening elsewhere in the country, but also there'll be people on this call who are thinking, goodness, that's 100 million miles away from the culture in my school. What's your next step? What's your challenge for the next academic year? What are you doing next? What's in your development plan?
Two big things really, that is essentially one big thing. Inside of the classroom and beyond the classroom, what we do in school, really doubling down on making the students feel and identify as a musician. We want all of the children to think that they are musicians, because I think that's that kind of X factor moment that transfers into larger key stage 4 and 5 cohorts for us, larger groups of children signing up to take part in a show, taking part in concerts. And so there are kind of two ways we're kind of going to be going about it. First of all, in the classroom, kind of really just nothing huge, but just like tinkering with what we do with our delivery of our subjects, so that students feel like they are the masters of their own destiny as musicians, and they don't need to wait and sit around for a grown-up to kind of spoon feed things to them, but kind of understand that they're functional musicians. You know, they can walk to a piano, they know where their hands are going to go, they look at notation, they understand what the cymbals are telling them, and so it's kind of using things like do it now tasks at the beginning of lessons, you know, with reading notation, but then that's not a mutually exclusive kind of item in the lesson away from playing the keyboard or singing something. So really doubling down and signposting to the children, hey, that thing you do over there also joins to this thing that you do over here. They're not a separate trick, or, you know, all of the skills there are intertransferable, and they're going to make you a more powerful musician.
So if I've got this right, what you're saying is you're going to tweak what you do so that students are equipped to self-manage.
Yeah.
So they feel ownership and they feel, I can do this thing because I am equipped with these skills, and so I can attempt this piece of work without having to, like you said, wait for an adult. Is that right? Yeah,
essentially, yeah. Like building those you know, personal learning skills. So that, yeah, it's a confidence thing. It's an everything thing, really, isn't it? And then that's going to kind of also be supported with this idea in lesson and outside lesson, that there is something for everyone. Everyone is a musician in some way. So things like, for example, in the extracurricular provision, in the co-curricular provision, you know, students learn the piano, but then there's something for a piano student to do beyond that one-to-one lesson as part of a musical kind of society, be it recitals, be it performing on the piano as duets with other students, that sort of a thing. So the one-to-one lessons, we don't want them to stop with the one-to-one lesson, and that's the one thing they do. It then also joins into and feeds the fire.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it sounds very similar to the type of thing we do for pianists, because with ensemble work, sometimes you can be left with a lot of pianists because let's say you only need one keys player for that jazz band in that rhythm section or whatever.
Yeah.
You want to be able to give opportunities to everybody, but what can it be? And so, yeah, we do the paired piano system where we've got sixth formers coaching other students, and we pair them up so that everybody's got something, and then they have their own performance evening. And it's exactly that type of thing that you are saying, is pairing students up so that they've got someone else to work with, so they've got small ensembles to work with. So when you've got your classroom and the delivery, and then you were talking about the both in and out, that there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
What do you kind of think, oh, right, we need to start that, or have we got all bases covered?
We work really hard, but there's always more, isn't there?
Yeah.
And the big thing that we have a really supportive trust. We have a really supportive SLT. And so whenever we have an idea, we're always pushing at an open door. And I get that that's a really privileged position to come from. But so, for example, there's 2 music teachers at our school. We're not going to be able to do all of these things. So some of these things are going to be kind of reaching out to our peripatetic staff. And so for example, this year, one of the things that we've implemented is a particular way of rehearsing as rock bands, where we have the singing teacher, the guitar teacher, the drum teacher, all come in on the same day and do their one-to-one lessons during the day. But then all of those teachers stay for 2 hours after school to help our rock band provision rehearse after school. We have 60 kids in our rock band practice.
And how do you pay for that? How do you fund that?
So we fund it in a couple of ways. We really kind of push for as many PP students to come along so we can access some PP funding, but also there is just money in the school budget, and when we say to the head, hey, this is a thing we're going to do, we're pushing at an open door, because then, you know, when visitors come to the school and they see students perform with confidence to the rest of the school, to any visitors that come to the school, to each other, it really adds to the school ethos. You know, we kind of, the rock bands performed on a lunchtime a couple of weeks ago to the rest of the school, and 2 things happened. There were no behavior issues. All of the children, without being told, came to our big kind of central atrium and just sat down and kind of watched it, and some of them stood up and watched it. And for that lunchtime, you know, there was no kind of running around silliness or anything like that. That all of the children were fully focused on this thing. And the other thing that happened, of course, was the next day I had about 17 more kids signing up. Okay, well, I saw that yesterday, and I've always hidden it from you, but I actually have singing lessons outside of school. And I want to come and be involved in that. Oh, I have drum lessons at church. Can I come and play the drums in the rock band as well? And so all of a sudden our ranks really swelled. And every time we do something like that, that happens. And so we're going to do a similar thing now with woodwind and strings next year. Again, pushing at an open door because the head's seen the power of it. The proof's in the pudding sort of a thing. And we're also going to put it, one of the things that we don't currently provide for is like an extracurricular session for the students who are the kind of the techie students. All of our stuff's kind of performing on a traditional, you know, instrument type of a thing. So we're going to start a kind of a music tech club for the students who are enjoying playing with the faders and things, and the recording stuff, and we're going to see what we can do with that.
Now, you know, you said, last question, and this can be a question either for James or Connell. Last question from me. You know, you were saying that there's money in the budget to do this. You're pushing on an open door. This is a question for either of you. If you're not pushing on an open door, the door is firmly closed. If you do not have a budget, for all the people that are here today, some advice on how you get that door to move and how you derive some funding that will allow you to make some of the decisions and some of the marvelous things that you've both been describing are happening in your schools happen. Either of you. Yeah, go ahead, Connell.
So I'll come in if you don't mind, James, first, because I had that experience at the start. The head wasn't going to invest until he saw, the potential of it, really. And once he saw the potential, he did invest then and continues to. But before that time, my advice is get in touch with your music hub, because of the Wider Opportunities Programme. There's so many instruments lying around in schools that are not being used. So, for example, we got a steel pan set that was in storage. Dust them off, tuned them up, and we did that. We got, and also drums. Local community, we recently got given full guitars and guitars. It was actually somebody I used to teach, and their parents were relocating. They said, "Do you want to hear?" Used Facebook Marketplace for some instruments for some students. There's some real cheap deals on there. Just get what you can, and then once your senior leadership sees the impact, and especially the behavioural change with some students, they'll start to invest.
I think a lot of the time as well, you have to be the person that makes the first move. You have to be the person that takes charge. James, go on, give us some advice. There's no money in the coffers, and it doesn't look like anybody cares yet.
I do you know what, this was the biggest thing that I thought about kind of preparing for today. I have quite a few things that I kind of thought about. The first one is a problem-solving mindset for just you and the way that you go about things as a head of department. This is something that I very much experienced in my previous posting as a head of department, where kind of budgets were really, really slashed and kind of removed from what was going on during my tenure as a head of department. So it was a very much a case of getting creative. The other thing is to position yourself as a department within the identity of the school. Bring people in with what you're doing, show people amazing things, prepare an amazing thing, and really show it off, and then give people something that they can't say no to. That it would be silly to say, well, I wouldn't fund this a little bit more because look at the benefit of where this thing's going. I think there's an awful lot of heads who, as a student themselves, as a member of staff, and then as a head, have not experienced good music teaching. And so part of what we can do is help them with that and educate them on what we can achieve with a powerful music curriculum and co-curricular offer, and the role that can play within your school.
It's true.
And the way that it can make your school look within its community and draw people to your school, and the confidence that you as a school exude to your wider community because you get this thing right. And it's such a holistic part of educating young people. The power of having a quality school concert that is backed by your SLT. Any difficult messages that SLT ever need to get across will be so much better received when they've had that opportunity at a school concert to press the flesh with parents who've sat and been happy because their children have got up on the stage and grown as a person before their very eyes, and heads can kind of get up and deliver a message that they want their community to hear. These are just kind of little things that kind of join so many things together for so many people. And I think the final thing is reaching out to your community directly, of willing parents and others within the school, and taking the bull by the horns in terms of raising money. There are people who will know about kind of professional fundraising within your community, parents who are happy to kind of run the ticket sales, the tombola, the anything that they can do to kind of raise money, run a bar, run a barbecue in the summer, all of these things that kind of then kind of get that money, get it banked and get it ring fenced, so that or just get the create a parental society and get them to kind of donate instruments that they've bought directly, so that the money doesn't go into a bank account and then gets kind of redistributed. Get them to make the donations actually as the thing that you want.
Well, I've got to say, wise words from you both, and thank you both so much indeed. We have to be entrepreneurs. We have to put things under people's noses. And so, yeah, some great advice there. I'm going to hand back to you, Catherine, if I may.
Thanks, Liz, and also huge thanks to James and to Connell for sharing that insight on the case studies. It's great to read about them, but also when you hear about the stories behind them, it just really brings them to life. So thank you again for your time at a really busy part of the term. So just as we come towards the end, I'm not sure how much time I have for Q&A, but I wanted to show very briefly, if I can get the tech to work. Hopefully you can all see my screen here. So I wanted to show you the resources that Music Teachers Association have put together to support you with the national plan. So this is on our website. It's just the homepage for the website. You can, if you click on this banner here, that's when I hope the internet works quickly enough. You'll see there's a homepage that is specifically for the national plan. There's a brief summary there. You can click into the plan by clicking on that link there. You can download our summary on this page here by clicking through on there. Now, we've also created this self-evaluation tool. This very much is not it's not a stick to beat people with, right? It's there to help you work you're already doing. So if you click on the link and you'll see it's kind of like it's not rag rated, but it's sort of in categories of what levels of provision might look like, with the first category focusing being, this is probably very much a work in progress. This is like the baby steps of getting towards a department that's up on its feet. But you might find that you're actually like well on the other side on, you know, on a particular area, but not so far developed in another. And it's by doing that piece of reflection, you can be, as I say, quite honest with yourself and say, actually, I think, you know, what we're really good at is engaging with our community. I think we're doing great in that area, and we're great at working with parents, and we're doing loads of great performances. But actually what we really want to work on is about our curriculum offer, or it might be vice versa. But it's about doing that, and then it helps you to work out where you're going and what you can do to get there. But also another one of those pieces of evidence you could put in front of senior leaders and say, I've done this bit of reflection, and now I think I know, like, holistically where I need to go with my department. So if anyone's got any questions about that, we will be doing specific sessions on evaluation next term, because after all, these development plans aren't really being asked for, even though they're not statutory, they're not being asked for until next year. So plenty of time. And that's one thing I really want to impress on people. There's no rush. Although for children, there is a rush, I think, because they only get one go. You know, they're only in year 11 once, they're only in secondary school once. So if it's not us who do it, then who is going to do it? That's what I always feel like. It's within our gift to do this. So hopefully that's useful. And if anyone has any questions, you can get in touch with the MTA. Look at this Join Us button. That's the one to go for. So if you're not a member, you can find out more by going on the website. There's free membership for ECTs for like those 2 years of training and into qualifications. It's a really good offer if you're at the start of your career. It's only £68 a year, which is like less than a cup of coffee a week, which I think is great value. And just like Liz, I get loads of I just get, yeah, there's so much benefit from being part of something bigger than just yourself. And you can get in touch with James. I'm sure, Liz, you'll be really welcome to be in contact with as well. You can find me through United Learning, catherine.barker@unitedlearning.org.uk. I'm just going to pop into the Q&A. I can see that someone's asked about the webinar. Will it be available? Yes. Our events manager, Jill, she's lovely, but she's in the Bahamas this week. So to do with her other job, to do with supporting tourism organisations. So she'll be back next week, and she'll pop it on YouTube as well, so you can watch it back. Also a question about hubs, how they can make things easier for music departments. And there's some really lovely comments came through the chat. James, in Northamptonshire, MPAT, what do they do to make your life easier?
They are really proactive, and they are really open to kind of discussing anything. If you think you've got an idea or a need or a want, and they're also very good at kind of coming to you in the first place with suggestions, and there's just I just have a real sense of trust with them that anything that they do is going to be quality.
Yeah, that's good. Trust about quality. I think that's a key statement to end on. So I'll wrap up if it's okay, Liz. I just thank you to Liz with your lovely questioning. I think you really got under the skin of that. Thanks again to James and Connell, and thank you to the huge number of attendees who've given up their time on a Monday evening towards the end of term to hear more about the national plan. It hasn't stopped. This now is us for the next 10 years. We keep going. So thank you for everything you do in schools, everything for children, young people, communities on behalf of the MTA, and have a lovely evening. Thanks again for joining us. Bye, everyone.